Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. Messed up the words on the song, man. Just one line, but still, I don't like that. I'm like, that's the first time we've done that, at least it's our second time doing it, and I kind of flubbed a little line there. Hope everyone is doing well. Hello, everyone out there in Zoom. We would like that, and we've already said good morning to Tarnay and Farah and Camby's and Joan. Hello, Joan and Geeti. And good morning, Gilbert. And even though I said hello to Adam, I think he already said back hello, but just want to say hi again to Adam. This is his first time joining us. Adam is a longtime friend and local Baha'i. And hello to everyone out there in Facebook land. For anyone who, whether they're just, if they're with us at this time or joining us later, I don't know if everybody's heard of Ayamiha. If you're Baha'i, you know about what Ayamiha is. For anyone who doesn't know, this would be a good time to tell everyone about Ayamiha, because Baha'is all over the world right now are celebrating Ayamiha. Daryl, you don't know what Ayamiha is.
No, I don't have the foggiest. I'm kidding.
No, Ayamiha is 4 or 5 days that start at the end of February, and they precede the Baha'i fast, which is coming up and starts on March 2nd, correct?
Right.
Yeah, March 2nd. And Baha'is every year go through 19 days of fasting from sunup to sundown, 19 days of fasting. Happy Ayamiha, Jim. 19 days of fasting from sunup to sundown. Whenever we say 19 days of fasting, for anyone who doesn't know about it, they often think you fast for 19 days. Constantly, it's sunup to sundown. It's kind of funny that in the health and fitness world, they're now making a big deal of fasting.
Right.
And they call it intermittent fasting. And that's basically what we do. And of course, there are some restrictions on who should or should not fast and so forth. But yeah, this is the time of Ayamiha, is this time of celebration and joy and doing service for others and so forth that precedes the fast. I just thought we better go ahead and put that out there. And who's this in our Facebook feed? Why, it's my lovely sweetheart, Nini Ha, is joining us. Hi, Nini. And I don't recognize the other name. It's a long name. We're just going to go ahead and let it go. But we're glad for anyone who could join us. And today, I don't know if we're going to get through today, man.
I think we will.
You think we will?
Yeah.
Okay. It is today, of course, we are still pulling from, or we're reading the Proofs of Baha'u'llah's Mission. For anyone who doesn't know, Nini would always have me hold the book up there. The Proofs of Baha'u'llah's Mission. And today's chapter, which is chapter 30, and the name and the title of the chapter is The Consequences of Rejecting Baha'u'llah's Teachings. And Daryl, I gotta say this. As I was reading this, some of this is coming from Baha'u'llah, some is coming from Shoghi Effendi, and our final passage is actually coming from the Universal House of Justice. Right? But as I was reading this, I was overtaken by, I'd say, a feeling that I honestly simply could not describe. It was this mixture of happiness and sadness, and I couldn't think of a word for it. Melancholy might apply, but that just didn't seem right. So I Googled, what is a term for a feeling of happiness and sadness? And I came up with a word I'd never heard of. And so I'm teaching you all the word. The word is sadade.
Sadade. Okay.
S-A-U, not Sadidi. That's a whole different thing. Sadade, S-A-U-D-A-D-E. And apparently it's come from Brazil. It comes from Brazil. But listen to the meaning of sadade. And maybe you'll feel this way when we're finished today. I don't know. But this is just how I felt. A feeling of longing, melancholy, desire, and nostalgia. It describes a deep emotional state, a yearning for happiness that has passed or perhaps never existed. So it's kind of a mixture of happiness and sadness. That's kind of the way I felt reading this. So, you know what? I didn't start with a prayer. I think we'll save the prayers because we're already 10 minutes in. We'll save the prayers for when we actually get to the time for prayer. So, Daryl, the consequences of rejecting Baha'u'llah's message, if you would please.
Witness how the world is being afflicted with a fresh calamity every day. its tribulation is continually deepening. From the moment of the rise was revealed until the present day, neither hath the world been tranquilized, nor have the hearts of its people been at rest. At one time it hath been agitated by contentions and disputes. At another it hath been convulsed by wars, and fallen a victim to inveterate disease. The sickness is approaching the stage of utter hopelessness, inasmuch as the true physician is debarred from administering the remedy, whilst the unskilled practitioners are regarded with favor and are accorded full freedom to act. The dust of sedition hath clouded the hearts of men, blinded their eyes. Ere long, they will perceive the consequences of what their hands have wrought in the day of God. Thus warneth you he who is the all-informed, as bidden by one who is the most powerful, the Almighty.
That's coming from Baha'u'llah, yeah. This next passage actually comes from Abdu'l-Baha. Everyone make sure you mute it, please. Make sure you mute it.
Baha'u'llah's great endeavor in the East was to unify mankind, to cause them to agree and become reconciled, thereby manifesting the oneness of the world of humanity, preparing the way for international peace, and establishing the foundations of happiness and welfare. But the nations have not hearkened to his summons and message. The Persian and Turkish governments arose against his cause, and the result is that both these governments have been disintegrated and broken. Had they been attentive to his commands and received his admonitions, they would have been protected. They would have enjoyed happiness and prosperity. They would have been bound together in ties of fellowship and brotherhood, availing themselves of the world, of the wonderful bounties of love and unity, and dwelling in the delectable paradise of the divine kingdom. But alas, the commands and guidance of the Blessed One have been neglected and ignored. Day by day, they have followed their own devices and imaginations, until now this fire of war is raging most furious.
Daryl, I gotta stop you there. Were you gonna stop anyway?
I was. Only because I knew you were going to stop.
This could have been written today.
It could have been written today.
This could have been written today. First of all, there are two things here that I love about this passage. Number one, Abdu'l-Baha very concisely, I mean, it's great that we have books and books and books of this new revelation, but Abdu'l-Baha very concisely points out what Baha'u'llah's mission is. He says Baha'u'llah's great endeavor in the East was to unify mankind,
Right.
to cause them to agree and become reconciled, thereby manifesting the oneness of the world of humanity, preparing the way for international peace, and establishing the foundations of happiness and welfare. And then he says, but the nations have not hearkened to his summons and message. And then he points out, because of this, or if they had, what would have happened? Had they been attentive to his commands and received his admonitions, they would have been protected. They would have enjoyed happiness and prosperity. They would have been bound together in ties of fellowship and brotherhood. And he goes on, of course. And we're still doing this stuff today.
Still today.
I mean, it's in the news. We don't have to rehash the news. I'm sure everyone knows it, but it's happening today for the very same reasons. I just wanted to point that out. It's just, that grabbed me. I think that's one of the things that hit me. It's like, oh my goodness, this is history, but this is now.
Right.
Okay, I'll stop there.
A tempest, unprecedented in its violence, unpredictable in its course, catastrophic in its immediate effects, unimaginably glorious in its ultimate consequences, is at present sweeping the face of the earth.
Mhm.
Its driving power is remorselessly gaining in range and momentum. Its cleansing force, however much undetected, is increasing with every passing day. Humanity, gripped in the clutches of its devastating power, is smitten by the evidences of its restless fury.
Resistless.
Resistless fury, excuse me. It can neither perceive its origin nor probe its significance, nor discern its outcome. Bewildered, agonized, and helpless, it watches this great mighty wind of God invading the remotest and fairest regions of the earth, rocking its foundations, deranging its equilibrium, sundering its nations, disrupting the homes of its peoples, wasting its cities, driving into exile its kings, pulling down its bulwarks, uprooting its institutions, dimming its light, and harrowing up the souls of its inhabitants. The powerful operations of this titanic upheaval are comprehensible to none except as have recognized the claims of both Baha'u'llah and the Bahá'í. Their followers know full well whence it comes and what it will ultimately lead to. Though ignorant of how far it will reach, they clearly recognize its genesis, are aware of its direction, acknowledge its necessity, observe confidently its mysterious processes, ardently pray for the mitigation of its severity, intelligently labor to assuage its fury, and anticipate with undimmed vision the consummation of the fears and the hopes it must necessarily engender.
Got to stop you there, Daryl. The next phrase actually explains what all of this is. But I got to tell you, up until I got to that part, this next phrase that you have yet to read, I didn't understand what this was really saying. I thought, and I'm saying this because I'm assuming maybe some other people feel that might be thinking this way. This is Shoghi Effendi, by the way. So that's why all of a sudden the language complexity suddenly shot up. This is Shoghi Effendi. But he says, I mean, think about it, a tempest, unprecedented in its violence, unpredictable in its course, catastrophic in its immediate effects. And then he says, unimaginably glorious in its ultimate consequences. I missed that part. I read it, but that got past me. Unimaginably glorious in its ultimate consequences is at present sweeping the face of the earth. Because I was keyed in on the negative.
Right.
I was thinking that these are, for lack of a better word, this isn't the good phrase, but for lack of a better word, evil forces that were. But that's not what it is.
No.
That's not what it is. Further down, I mean, he goes into more negative descriptions or descriptions of what's really going on, the bad things that are happening. But he says, bewildered, agonized, and helpless, it referring to humanity, it watches this great and mighty wind of God invading the remotest and fairest regions of the earth. And he goes on. Now, the next line that you're about to read is a pretty heavy line, or is a pretty heavy phrase, just this next phrase. So go ahead.
This judgment of God.
Say again.
This judgment of God, as viewed by those who have recognized Baha'u'llah as his mouthpiece and his greatest messenger on earth, is both a retributory calamity and an act of holy and supreme discipline.
Wow.
It is at once a visitation from God and a cleansing process for all mankind. Its fires punish the perversity of the human race and weld its component parts into one organic, indivisible, world-embracing community. Mankind in these fateful years is as ordained by him who is both the judge and the redeemer of the human race, being simultaneously called to give account of its past actions, and is being purged and prepared for its future mission. It can neither escape the responsibilities of the past, nor shirk those of the future.
Mhm.
God, the vigilant, the just, the loving, the all-wise ordainer, can in this supreme dispensation neither allow the sins of an unregenerate humanity, whether of omission or of commission, to go unpunished, nor will he be willing to abandon his children to their fate and refuse them that culminating and blissful stage in their slow and painful evolution throughout the ages, which is at once their inalienable right and their true destiny.
Okay. My head is swimming. What does it all mean?
It means if you mess up, you will pay. If you get the message wrong, there are consequences.
As I was
Don't
reading
pay
this,
heed.
as I was reading this, I was thinking it's like God is saying, this is a bit sacrilegious. We can do this the easy way, or we can do it the hard way. Mankind, unfortunately, keeps choosing the hard way, but because of God's benevolence, we're still going to end up in the same place.
That's right.
We're still going to end up in the same place, but it just shows that to me, what we're reading here is about a just God.
Well, the other thing that it says is that we need not be concerned about what the stage that we're in.
I'm glad you pointed that out.
Because it is part of the evolution of our maturity.
Yeah, but that's so hard, man. That's so hard. I don't know. Anyone else in the Zoom? I wonder if that is so difficult to not be overwhelmed, to not be concerned, to not let it get us down. I mean, it's unrealistic to say we won't be down about it sometime, but just to be unconcerned, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's what I totally agree with you, but that's so difficult. And maybe it's because I'm too much of a news junkie, and with the internet and which can obviously allow us to do wonderful things for using it, but it can also bring us all that negativity that is going on. And I don't just mean the big ones, like, let's say, what's going on in Ukraine and in other nations and so forth. But you hear about these terrible acts that individuals, I mean, if you're stuck in that space, that individuals are, perpetrating against one another and so forth. And I'm glad you said that, because it's a reminder. Basically, don't let it get you down.
Right.
Yeah, don't let it get you down. Okay.
The whole of mankind is groaning, is dying to be led to unity, and to terminate its age-long martyrdom. And yet, it stubbornly refuses to embrace the light and acknowledge the sovereign authority of the one power that can extricate it from its entanglements and avert the woeful calamity that threatens to engulf it.
Mm-hmm.
Must humanity.
Must humanity.
Must
say that
humanity.
because that's an important word here.
Must humanity, tormented as she now is, be afflicted with still severer. Let me start again. Must humanity, tormented as she now is, be afflicted with still severer tribulation?
Severer.
Thank you. With severer tribulations, ere their purifying influence can prepare her to enter the heavenly kingdom, destined to be established upon earth. Must the inauguration of so vast, so unique, so illumined an era in human history be ushered in by so great a catastrophe in human affairs as to recall, nay, surpass the appalling collapse of Roman civilization in the first centuries of the Christian era? Must a series of profound convulsions stir and rock the human race ere Baha'u'llah can be enthroned in the hearts and the consciences of the masses, ere his disputed ascendancy is universally recognized and the noble edifice of his world order is reared and established?
Got to stop you there. Now, those are all questions that Shoghi Effendi, this is still Shoghi Effendi, that he is asking. And to me, it's sort of like, again, where we said earlier, where, at least my interpretation of what was said earlier was, we can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way. To me, this paragraph is saying, is this what it's going to take? Do you have to do, must humanity be afflicted with still severer tribulations? It takes more of this before the purifying influence, he's calling the effect of Baha'u'llah, the purifying influence can prepare her to enter the heavenly kingdom destined to be established on earth. Again, we do this the easy way or the hard way. It's going to happen.
Yeah, this is the why.
Yeah.
This is the why.
Must the inauguration of so vast, so unique, so illumined an era in human history be ushered in? He's talking about what is to come. Vast, unique, illumined. Must it be ushered in by so great a catastrophe in human affairs as to actually surpass the fall of the Roman Empire? And, I know when we meet in our groups and so forth, and we have these conversations, in Baha'is, there's this consciousness, this awareness that this all, it's part of the design, but it's not like the design is absolutely etched in stone. We have choices as,
That's right.
humanity, and we keep making the wrong choices.
Well, this is saying that we haven't learned.
Yeah.
It's saying we haven't learned the lessons of the past.
Yeah.
And it's asking why you continue to create situations that are not going to pay off.
Yeah. Oh, man.
So, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So let me go on. The long ages of infancy and childhood through which the human race had to pass have receded into the background. Humanity is now experiencing the commotions invariably associated with the most turbulent stage in its evolution, the stage of adolescence, when the impetuosity of youth and its vehemence reach their climax and must gradually be superseded by the calmness, the wisdom, and the maturity that characterize the stage of manhood. Then will the human race reach that stature of ripeness, which will enable it to acquire all the powers and capacities upon which its ultimate developments must depend.
Wow. Then will the human race reach that stature of ripeness, which will enable it to acquire all the powers and capacities. We're not there yet, but it's coming, upon which its ultimate developments must depend.
So basically it says if we are steadfast, that there will be that this age will bear fruit, basically, that ripeness that they talk about.
I'm glad you clarified that. Now I see you put your book down. I'm sure there's a reason.
Time for a song.
Choose.
It doesn't matter.
When the peace comes, or a new race of men.
Let's go new race of men.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
I figured you put this here for a reason.
Well, I put there, just I could not decide. This song is called New Race of Men. And for anyone who wonders what that is an allusion to, allusion to, is about this. It's sort of like some of these promises that mankind will reach the point where we will be like a new race. because we will have changed and evolved to that point. race of men. That's always fun to do. Where did I put my book? Here it is. Okay, Daryl. This is our final passage, and this is coming from the Universal House of Justice. We don't have many in these many passages, but this really brings it to today, and it's in a wonderful way. So please, I knew you were going to do that, but I figured I'd try. This is coming from the Universal House of Justice. Sublime emotions surge in our hearts as we survey the dramatic history and amazing progress of these 100 years, meaning since the life of Baha'u'llah. At the time of the passing of Baha'u'llah, the Baha'i community was contained within the borders of no more than 15 countries, the vast majority of its members living in his native Iran. The community now embraces the entire planet. We have toiled to build a community at a period when the world has witnessed startling changes which have profoundly altered the character of society and plunged it into an unprecedented state of worry and confusion. Indeed, the world in its current condition has lost its bearings through the operation of forces it neither understands nor can control. It is a period in which great dynasties and empires have collapsed in rapid succession, in which powerful ideologies have captured the hearts of millions only to expire in infamy, in which 2 world wars wreaked havoc on civilized life as it was known at the beginning of the 20th century. In the wake of such horrendous disruptions, there have been unexampled advances in the realms of science, technology, and social organization, a veritable explosion of knowledge, and an even more remarkable burgeoning in the awakening and rise of masses of humanity, which were previously presumed to be dormant. Previously presumed, to be dormant. Thank you. These masses are claiming their rightful places within the community of nations, which has greatly expanded. With the simultaneous development of communications at the speed of light and transportation at the speed of sound, the world has contracted into a mere neighborhood in which people are instantly aware of each other's affairs. There you go. Instantly aware of each other's affairs and have immediate access to each other. And yet, even with such miraculous advances, with the emergence of international organizations, and with valiant attempts and brilliant successes at international cooperation, nations are at woeful odds with one another. People are convulsed by economic upheavals. Races feel more alienated than before and are filled with mistrust, humiliation, and fear.
I'm going to stop you this time.
No, that doesn't work that way.
Because what this, again, goes to reinforce the fact that we have not learned our lesson.
That's true.
And because we haven't, and you have to understand that this was written nearly a century ago.
No, this one.
It was written a long time ago, and what it's saying is that we still have not learned.
Haven't learned.
And because we haven't learned, we're going to suffer some convulsions as a result of it.
Now, the next paragraph goes right along with what you're saying. The first word they use is the word collateral. Collateral, as in collateral damage. They don't say collateral damage, but they say collateral. Collateral with these changes has been the breakdown of institutions, religious and political, which traditionally functioned as the guideposts for the stability of society. Even the most resilient of these seem to be losing their credibility as they have become preoccupied with their own internal disorder. This calls attention to the emptiness of the moral landscape and the feeling of futility deranging personal life. So this is at the large organizational level and at the personal level. Thoughtful commentators write apprehensively about the fall of culture and the consequent disappearance of values, the loss of the fullness of the inner life, a technological civilization facing an increasingly serious crisis, a technological civilization facing an increasingly serious crisis. They write, moreover, of the human species as being at the end with its wisdom and being unable to control itself, of the need for divine wisdom and foresight, and of the human psyche as being far removed from recognizing this need. So we have the need, but so much of humanity doesn't recognize that we have the need. These ominous comments reflect the universal consequences of a failed understanding as to the purpose of God for humankind.
Say that again.
These ominous comments reflect the universal consequences of a failed understanding as to the purpose of God for humankind. It is in this particular respect that the revelation of Baha'u'llah sheds new light. It refreshes our thoughts. It clarifies and I love this. It refreshes our thoughts. I'm just going to start from here. It is in this particular respect that the revelation of Baha'u'llah sheds new light. It refreshes our thoughts. It clarifies and expands our conceptions. His teachings imbue us with the abundance of God's love for his creatures. They impress upon us the indispensability of justice in human relations and emphasize the importance of adhering to principle in all matters.
I think you should go back and say that.
Okay, they impress upon us. I'm going to say his teachings imbue us with the abundance of God's love for his creatures. They impress upon us the indispensability of justice in human relations and emphasize the importance of adhering to principle in all matters. They inform us that human beings have been created. They inform us that human beings have been created to carry forward an ever advancing civilization, and that the virtues that befit the dignity of every person are forbearance, mercy, compassion, and loving kindness towards all the peoples and kindreds of the earth. As the members of our community have pursued their plan for teaching his faith, the faith of Baha'u'llah, they have grown to appreciate more adequately the purpose of the multifarious processes of change which have been at work during the course of the century. I don't know about you, but I had to look up multifarious. It's pretty simple. It simply means of the many and varied processes of change, right, which have been at work during the course of the century. Such simultaneous processes of rise and fall, of integration and disintegration, of order and chaos, with their continuous and reciprocal reactions on each other, are, our teachings tell us, but aspects of a greater plan. One, and indivisible, whose source is God and whose author is Baha'u'llah. The theater of whose operations is the entire planet. Now I got to read that again. Such simultaneous processes of rise and fall, of integration and disintegration, of order and chaos, with their continuous and reciprocal reactions on each other, are, our teachings tell us, but aspects of a greater plan, one and indivisible, whose source is God, whose author is Baha'u'llah, the theater of whose operations is the entire planet. And here's the kicker, and whose ultimate objectives are the unity of the human race and the peace of all mankind.
There you go.
You know, I usually like to finish this out with some all-encompassing statement that wraps it up. I got nothing. I have nothing. This is it. I mean, it's so clear. And whose ultimate objectives are the unity of the human race and the peace of all mankind. Wow. At this time, I didn't think we were going to finish this today, but we did, didn't we? Yeah, you said we were going to finish and you were right. At this time, as always, we like to pause and have prayers from anyone who would like to share a prayer or a song or a reading of your choosing. And as always, we always like to start with our Kambi's moment. Kambi's, do you have something to share with us today?
Sure.
There's a bit of an echo for you now. Did you want an echo? Did you want a little reverb there? I'm not sure.
How about now?
Okay, there's still a little bit, but I won't say what I was going to
Okay,
say.
how about now?
It's coming down some. It's
Okay.
coming down.
All right.
Okay.
ای متوجه دیده به ملکوت غیب جبروت باز کن و به این مناجات آغاز نیاز کن. ای مهربان تو صد کن و پوش خطا از ما عطا است و جفا از ما وفا است و گناه از ما پناه است و بیماری از ما شفا است و بپوش و بیاموز وفا کن پناه ده شفا بخش